Hey, what is up, everybody? Tyson Dela Cruz here from the Real Estate Experts Podcast. Today, we have an amazing show for you. We have house hacking expert Spencer Cornelia. Let's roll into the intro.
Welcome to Real Estate Experts. Join us to democratize the secrets to real estate for everyone, everywhere. Thank you for being here. Let's see what our experts have to say today.
Spencer, what's up, man? Thank you so much for hopping on. I really appreciate it, man.
For sure. Let's unveil the secrets to house hacking today.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, if you could kindly give the audience a quick synopsis on who you are and how you got into house hacking.
I'm a content creator on YouTube now, but I've been in real estate for a few extra years. I love real estate. I love investing. And I think this was a match made in heaven because I enjoy house hacking. I started in 2016 with the purchase of a condo here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I enjoyed it ever since. I mean, of course, there's major headaches. So enjoying it is kind of a funny term because I've had to deal with so many headaches. But all in all, I think it's a great way to invest. And I think it's a great way for people to get started in real estate. And it's fun to talk about because it's just another avenue.
Absolutely, man. Yo, can you tell us a little bit about like what house hacking is for those individuals that aren't familiar with what it is? And yeah, let's start there.
In the most broad sense, is essentially buying a property and having some sort of extra income coming in to offset your costs. And the goal, and really the reason why house hacking came to be so popular, is that you live for free, meaning all of the income that you earn from your tenants cover all of the expenses to live on the property. And the reason why it's so great for beginners is because you can put up with all of the headaches that tenants might bring, but you're also in a position where you can then live for free. In most places right now, most cities, you're probably paying $800 to $1,200 a month total cost of living. And if you can then invest in something that reduces that to zero, I think the headaches are worth it. But it's also a way to invest and make money, and then that gets you started on other investment endeavors. And so I think it's the best way to start. And within this context, single-family houses are traditionally the way to do it. That or some type of small multifamily where you can buy a property, rent the empty rooms or the empty units to tenants, and therefore either offset your costs or cash flow.
So basically, buying a fourplex, living in one of the units, and then essentially renting out the other 3 units, right? Something
Correct.
like that.
In Las Vegas, we don't have the luxury, but I'll tell you, a lot of the Midwest cities have a lot of awesome neighborhoods that I think some people would classify as like a C+, B- neighborhood that have duplexes, triplexes, and I think those are pretty legitimate investments.
Awesome. And then when it comes to house hacking a single family residence, how is that possible?
You can buy a house with as many rooms as you'd like and can afford. Here in Vegas, there isn't that much added cost to go for a 5, 6, or possibly even 7 bedroom house, depending on the neighborhood, of course. But the difference between a 4-bed and say a 5-bed with a huge loft, the cost isn't that much different. And so if you're focused on house hacking like I am, I prefer going for a 5-bed house, especially if it's got a loft that I can convert to an extra bedroom. Now you can add an additional room, which is additional cash flow. And so, yeah, man, the single family is a great opportunity for a lot of places.
So you're basically acquiring these assets, single family residence, and then renting out per room, fully furnished, I'm assuming, or not fully
Correct.
furnished?
Fully furnished. And I include all utilities. I didn't want to get into the game of like divvying up because then people will complain, so-and-so takes a longer shower, so-and-so keeps their lights on. I just $50 per month. That includes a monthly maid service, all utilities included.
And then all tenants share kitchen, parking, so on and so forth.
Correct.
And then how many individuals typically are you placing in a room? 1 individual, 2?
Just
Okay.
one. Yeah, I definitely
Awesome.
will not do 2. I've had a couple situations where there was like an extended stay boyfriend or girlfriend where they would come over many nights per week. And that's been the only time I've had more than 1 in a room.
Wow. And then how are you typically acquiring, if you're open to sharing, how can somebody actually acquire? They would just use a traditional mortgage, like an FHA, conventional, to acquire a single family residence and then rent the units out? Is that how that would work?
On paper, I think the best way is to leverage. And typically house hacking is for beginners, so I'll stick there. I think the best way to really get in real estate is to leverage the ability to buy real estate with 3.5% or 5% down and get into a property that can either break even on cash flow or positive cash flow. Because a lot of people who are beginners aren't able to put down 20 or 25% as an investment property. With the prices nowadays and the interest rates, it's incredibly hard to qualify for a loan, putting down that much. How many people have 100 grand? Here in Vegas, you need 100, 125,000. So if you want to start that same $500,000 property, instead of needing 100,000 to buy it, 5% down means you only need 25,000. And then an additional hack is do what I do, which is spend some time and effort getting your real estate license. And sure, there's some time spent there, but if you get that, then you can do what I do and pay the 5% down, but then also get 2.5% back as an agent, as my agent commissions. So I get an immediate 50% return on a purchase. So I'm not only getting in the house for 5% down, I'm actually really getting it in for 2.5% down.
Wow, that's amazing. Because you're using the real estate, your realtor commissions to offset. That
Correct.
is awesome, man. So
typically, it's really an automatic 50% ROI.
Wow, that's amazing. So how, like, what's the initial kind of cost that you're renting per room now, fully furnished?
I feel like I'm a little below market, but the rooms that share a bathroom, $750 a month total. So $700 a room plus $50 for the utilities. The master is anywhere from $900 to $1,000.
Wow,
that's pretty easy, and
So
that's for they have their own primary bath. And then if there's any rooms that have their own private bathroom and it's a smaller room, generally considered a second master or second primary, you could probably $850, $900.
So you're like 4 or 5xing from just renting to a single family, right?
Not quite that high. My current house could probably get $3,000 to $3,200 for a single family. If I were to rent all 6 rooms collectively, it'd be about $4,800. So that's a 50% jump.
Wow, that is awesome, man. That's amazing. And then what about like garage? Are you doing any garage conversions, or have you done that in the past?
I have one on the property you're familiar with. Yeah, the garage conversion. Thankfully, Gary, the previous owner, converted the garage. I just upgraded it with some nice renovations. That is a great hack too. Is some of these cities, if you can get a little creative, there's opportunities to add essentially kind of quote unquote units, where a general room in the area might go for 700 or 800. But if you're able to wall it off such that it has its own private bathroom and private entrance, that as a standalone unit might be able to get $1,000 a month. And so that unit for me, I consider it a unit almost, but that garage conversion is $1,000 a month, and that's in a pretty not ideal area.
Wow, so you added a couple additional units by just doing the simple garage conversion.
That's it. And out here in Vegas, there's a lot of areas where that's entirely possible, where it's not really outside of the norm of the neighborhood.
Yeah. What actually kind of got you interested initially in the house hacking concept versus renting, or doing Airbnb or renting to a regular family?
I can't remember the exact timeline. I think it lined up right at the same time, but essentially I had someone that I was friends with reached out to me and said, hey, you got to check out this thing called Bigger Pockets. I know you're interested in real estate. I was in Oakland before Las Vegas, where you can't buy real estate as someone earning $34,000 a year. And so once I moved to Las Vegas back in 2015, I started looking at real estate because prices were significantly cheaper and it was actually affordable at the time. And so I had a friend saying, check out Bigger Pockets. But then also at the same time, I met some guy at the gym who I kind of looked up to in some ways. And he said he bought a house in 2012 and he rents the rooms to his friends. And he's sharing the numbers. And I said, wait a second, the concept had never occurred to me. I thought you bought a house and you lived in it. And he said, yeah, I bought it and rented to friends. And here's the numbers that I paid this, and this is my monthly, and I rent the rooms and I cash flow. And I said, wait a second, I'm cool with living with roommates. You bought a house and you're able to cash flow? So it's right around that same time, I think they went in tandem, where I had this real life experience from a friend at the gym, and then I started learning the concept through the podcast. And so that led to me buying a condo in September of 2016.
Wow. And then how many single family houses do you have now? And obviously they're cash flowing positively, but like how many units do you have now?
I have 3 houses. I'm under contract on my 4th right now. Which
congratulations, dude.
Thanks. I don't dance until I reach the end zone.
Yeah.
So I try not to celebrate it. That would be my next owner occupied, because I want to leverage the 5% down while I can, because I'm trying to amass more real estate, because all of mine cash flow because of how many rooms I have and all the tenants. And so I'm not too concerned about interest rates, the value of the property, all this stuff. I want to get in because I think over time I want to hold long term. If I'm holding over time, property should be great investments. And so if I'm able to close on this property, it would give me an additional 6 rooms. So I'd be at, I think, 23 or 24 rooms altogether.
Holy smokes, man. That's amazing, man. That
Yeah,
is amazing.
my real goal is to acquire this one and then an additional property by the end of the year, or end of the year would be the goal. But I would at some point I'll have another property, and I think at that point where I'm at the 28 to 30 rooms, and so AKA tenants, at that point I can justify hiring a full-time property manager. And sure, my cash flow today would be wrecked, but the key is getting all the headaches off my plate, all the time and energy off my plate, finding tenants, managing the kind of the BS that you have to deal with, getting all that off my plate, but also having a full-time manager would allow me to grow even faster, because I don't think he's going to have like a quote unquote full-time gig. And I wouldn't be paying him for his time. I'd be paying him for the headache removal, but that would allow me to start acquiring properties and have no additional costs. So my variable expenses would decrease with each additional property. And my plan was always to accumulate as many nice single families in the 550, the American West Pulte homes down here in the Southwest, like the 550
Yes.
to 650 range. I just want to acquire as many of those as possible. These newly built, 6 years or less, five beds that can be converted to six beds. I want 10 of these tomorrow, because I think the demand for rent is insane right now, and I don't think it's going down. I think it's gonna, and I feel for these people. I think it's gonna be even more challenging to find places. You have a lot of people that move to Vegas that don't have friends and they can't afford $1,500 a month alone, but they're willing to live with roommates. And I provide a nice place that's furnished. It's got a maid service. Everything's nice about the house, a house that they normally couldn't afford or live in. And so I'm trying to acquire these. But yeah, as of today, I have 3 houses. I'm only managing 12 tenants because one's an Airbnb. However, if that doesn't pan out, or if the numbers don't align, because right now Airbnb is kind of up and down. I've had it on Airbnb for 3 months, and I've had 1 month last month was real low, and then I had a really good month. And so I'm just going to try and figure out if the best path is rent by room or Airbnb. And if I would get that manager, I can convert it back to a rent by room and have it, I think, be a better financial situation.
I love that, man. So typically, where are you, if you're open to sharing, like where are you finding your tenants at?
Facebook and Craigslist.
Wow. And you're personally vetting them, because you had mentioned earlier that you don't have a PM, a project manager, or property manager.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
So you're vetting them.
I haven't had to find that many. It's kind of bizarre where somehow magically, whenever a tenant moves out, 2 weeks prior or 1 week prior, someone reached out and just said, "Hey, I got a friend looking," because they know me as the rent by room guy. So somehow, I swear,
Wow.
it's so bizarre. There was a stretch of time where I think it was a year and a half, and I had 4 or 5 different tenants, and somehow they all, and then one reached out to me on email because he watched my YouTube. Another reached out to me on Instagram because he likes my YouTube. And it just happened at literally like 3 days prior. Someone was like, "Hey, I'm moving out at the end of the month," and then this person hit me up. It's very bizarre. So I'm fortunate in that regard. But yeah, Facebook is pretty reliable. Craigslist is reliable.
That's awesome, man. When it comes to like those 500 plus homes, have you noticed a different clientele versus, let's say a lower end asset, rent by room?
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could say it was an obvious one. I haven't seen a complete difference. It's challenging because at times I feel like it is mentally, but I'm actually trying to be a little objective here. And I've still dealt with some problems in the newer houses that I haven't. And funny enough, my house on the lower end actually has no problems. You have more financial problems. I should say that's going to be the clear difference. Is you're going to have people with more financial problems, people who are looking to rent $400, $500 a month and are struggling to pay, like that. That type of property finds those types of people, just because it's not the nicest property, and someone who'd want to live with 6 others under one roof is probably not thriving. They're not a doctor. And so that's going to be the general problem at that level. But yeah, when you're dealing with people, it's just any problem can come up. It's just bizarre. What the biggest problem I face with the rent by room, and the reason why there isn't like a foolproof way to do this, is personality matching is the hardest thing to figure out. And that there's no way, dude. I've had people with felonies that were the best tenants and the nicest, the cleanest. They were the easiest people. And then I've had people who are like, "Oh, this person's a no-brainer. They're nice, they're friendly, they come with a referral," and they show up and you go, "Oh, they're a little dirty. They cause headaches. They come to me with problems. They can't figure out things on their own." And yeah, I don't think there's like a clear difference. However, I do prefer these properties. I do think it generally attracts a nicer clientele. I think it does attract someone with a little bit more stable background or a stable living situation, which generally will lead to better problems. So really the question is, what problems do you want to deal with? Do you want to deal with maybe people who are desperate and they'll be super easy because they don't want to get kicked out because they have nowhere else to go? But you might have to be cool with them paying rent 2 weeks late every month versus someone who can pay on the first, but they might have some other issues that are unforeseen.
Right. Anybody that's interested in regards of house hacking, where can somebody start, and what type of, we have these different types of features to find properties on the MLS or Zillow. Like, where can somebody find a property? Like, what's the ideal like starting point, and how can they get started house hacking?
I think the MLS is a great chance. There's plenty of ways to find properties, which you're going to be more of an expert on than me. The benefit of house hacking is that you don't have to find the perfect deal. If you buy a house that's worth 500 and investors wouldn't pay over 460, it doesn't really matter because you're buying for the rooms and the fact that it cash flows or at least gets you in a situation where you go from paying rent to now paying zero. And so that to me is why you don't, if you're really interested in house hacking, you don't have to worry about buying the best deals. So the MLS is a great place to start. What I like looking for is houses with maximum bedrooms for the price point you can afford. Obviously, if you had unlimited money, you could find the most perfect ideal house. But if you're a beginner, you're probably going to be constricted by your buying limits. And so if you're in an area where 3-bed is about the price point you can afford, but you can find a place with a 4-bed, obviously you're going to get more money from that. Or if you can be creative, if you can look for houses that maybe a 3-bed, 3-bath is general in your area, but you can find a place with a loft. Now all of a sudden that loft can be converted to a 4th bedroom pretty easily. Those are things I would recommend. Another thing to keep in mind, if you have the funds and if you aren't constricted by money, is that the more bathrooms is way more ideal. I find that to be a much more valuable part of the equation because when people have their own bathrooms, it just presents less problems. And I think it's easier to find tenants. You can charge more. It's just easier. It's less friction with people sharing a bathroom. So if you can find an even number, like if a 3-bed, 3-bath, 4-4, 5-5, those would be ideal.
I would imagine that sharing a bathroom with another adult would be semi-difficult, depending on how long they take showers or what they shave and what they don't shave, or whatever they do. But
by the way, I haven't found too many issues as far as like so and so's showering too long. It's not so much that. I just think it's a mental. People mentally, I think humans want to kind of be separate. Like, hey, we can go chill in the kitchen, but I want to feel like I can go live in my own quarters. And I think, and another thing is, you don't want to deselect like certain groups of people. And if you have their own bathrooms, you can then have women. But something you need to consider is if you have 3 people to 1 bath, like if one woman is there, a lot of women, it's not really a problem, but they'll just prefer not sharing a bathroom with men. And so it's not like this problem where you're going to kick people out, but it's just easier on everyone. There might be small complaints where it's just easier to put a woman in a room with her own bathroom. And if you have all bedrooms have their own bath, hypothetically in a perfect scenario, you would never have to worry about this. Everyone could just mind their own business.
Yeah, that's actually kind of like the next question that I was going to ask regarding like commingling genders, right? Do you do that? Do you not do that? Should somebody stay away from that?
I have, and I do. I'm conflicted because I would probably prefer single gender just because I think sometimes problems get misconstrued or there's just communication problems. Living with women has taught me a lot about them, and I just think there's different levels of communication. They communicate differently and handle problems differently. And so I'll watch my words carefully, but I think they present certain problems that aren't actually problems. And so what I found is everyone's going to present problems. So there's no way to avoid it. Men present different problems. And I think that if you want to handle those specific set of problems, you're better off having an all-male house versus I've been told never have an all-female house, although I've never had that experience. But in an ideal world, I think you could find the perfect personality match. I think that's way more ideal than anything about gender or anything like that.
Awesome, man. Typically, how much does an individual need to get started with house hacking? If they're using traditional loan or OPM, like do they need to have amazing credit? What do they need?
Well, dude, even Vegas being so kind of quote unquote unaffordable, there's actually pretty good options for townhouses. $250,000 townhouses. If you need 5% down, that would be what, 10, 15 grand plus closing costs. I mean, like 20 grand plus furniture. So it depends on what you want to do. Not everyone does furniture, which could cost an additional 10 to 15 grand. So I think somewhere in the ballpark of 20,000 cash. I mean, if you've got 5,000 cash, you should probably focus on boosting the income or lowering expenses. I think 20K is generally a pretty good number. Here in Vegas, if you wanted to jump straight to like the nicer properties, that 500, you can get nice houses for 450, 500. So you're looking at $25,000 down, another maybe 20 grand as a safety net for furniture and closing costs if needed. So anywhere from 35 to 45,000.
Man, I love this method because the equity doesn't necessarily have to be there with like traditional flipping, just like you mentioned earlier. Equity doesn't have to be there. You know, it's not necessarily a flip. You're not looking to refinance. You're just looking for bedroom count, bathroom count. How many people can fit in here? What's the max rent that I can, charge for this property? And last question, are you living in these properties, or how are you navigating through that?
I am, yes. I'm currently house hacking my property, and then the next property would be purchased as an owner occupied.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, Spencer, man, thank you so much for your time, man. I appreciate the nuggets in regards of house hacking. Are you open to share where individuals can find you?
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I have a YouTube video called "How I Make $13,000 a Month in Real Estate," and in that video, the description has a link to like a free ebook I wrote on house hacking. So if anyone wants like a well written out, detailed book, then look up my YouTube, Spencer Cornelia, and then "How I Make $13,000 a Month on Real Estate." In the description of that video, there's a link to the ebook. I think it's on Google Drive, so you can click that. That's probably the best place to learn.
Awesome, man. Spencer, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for sharing about your house hacking knowledge and who you are. Guys, if you guys aren't subscribed to Spencer's channel on YouTube, please check him out. Thank you so much, man. I look forward to chatting with you soon, man. Let's roll the outro.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I have tremendous gratitude for our guests and you listening now for joining our mission of democratizing real estate education around the world. If you want to learn more from our experts, our mission, and get involved, then please visit realestateexperts.org to get started. Who knows? You might even be a guest on a future episode.